now that we got our oil pump on, we're going to go ahead and install our water pump. We just have a new front cover on here and a Rad Dan Industries lower water neck that our client has already installed to the assembly here. So we're just going to go ahead now and place it on the block. Oil pump or water pump O-ring just inside, just like the oil pump O-rings. Should stay in place by itself without any sealant, just like that. And then we can go ahead and install our water pump on top of that. A lot of people don't know that a couple of these bolts actually are shouldered, and they do go in a specific spot on the water pump. For the top one, it's just this hole right here. That one is actually slightly located in that position. And then the second one's just going to be this bottom one here. And both of these are a little bit of a tighter fit to align the water pump onto the block. So you're going to want to pay attention to those when you do go to install it. We're going to torque the water pump down to 15 foot-pounds now. Okay, we've installed our backing plate here now. I usually put a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts, place the backing plate on, and we're going to torque them down to 6 foot-pounds. Okay, now that we got our backing plate on, we're going to start installing the gears. We do just have a stock 12-tooth JZ gear. We've welded the backing plate on because they do like to pop off. So we're going to go ahead now. We're going to rotate our crank up to the TDC position with our cam gears already in the TD position. And then we will go ahead and start installing our timing components, the tensioner, the idler, and then we'll put our belt on. So next up here, we're going to be installing the timing belt tensioner. One thing to note on this here, it is a hole that passes through, so there's going to be a bit of oil behind this here. So you're going to want to use some sealant on the threads here, whether it's Loctite or thread sealant. Your choice. This gets torqued down to 25 foot-pounds. For this application, we're just going to be putting our standard blue Loctite on there. Just going to want to make sure you get it all the way around the threads. Don't want to put too much, just want to make sure you get all the way around, that way it does actually seal. And then we're going to thread that into the block here. And then we're going to torque that down to 25 foot-pounds. Okay, before we slide on our new timing belt tensioner here, we are going to install the belt. So we're just going to open that up, set that aside. We're going to install the belt beforehand. It does make it a little bit easier if you do it beforehand. So on the 2JZ, there's no timing belt marks on the actual belt, similar to the RB, or not similar to the RB, where it does have marks. It makes it really easy to mark it, or to line it up and time it. So what we're going to be doing is just lining the timing marks up on the cam gears with the backing plate. Once you have your cam gears lined up, we're going to line up our crank gear. This one was very close already, so a quick tap. And then we're going to run our belt around the cam gears and the crank gears. You're going to want to make sure that the belt distance is tight along here and then tight along here. This is going to be your slack side that the tensioner takes up. The engine does turn this way, so this is the important distance to get the timing right. Okay, we got our belt set on there. Tight here and here. Sometimes you have to rotate the crankshaft a little to the left, pop the belt on, tighten it up, make sure you got tension here and here. And then now we're going to go ahead and install our actual pencil tensioner and remove the pin. Spin the engine over twice, make sure we have our timing correct, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Once you have the timing belt pencil tensioner installed, we're going to go ahead and we're going to torque that down to 20 foot-pounds. Okay, now that we have that set, we're going to pull our tensioner pin and we'll torque our cam gears down, and then we'll spin the engine around twice. We're going to torque our cam gear bolts down now. They are 59 foot-pounds, so we're going to do them up to 60. They are an ARP hardware bolt here, so we're just going to run that up to 60. Alright, so we've turned our engine over twice now. Our timing marks all align, so we're good to go on the timing. Everything's been torqued, everything's been set. So now we're going to move on to cleaning up our water neck. We got a new one there, we'll install that. We'll install our rear main plate, and then we'll move on to cleaning our oil pan, installing the oil pan, and the valve covers. All right, next up here, we're going to be installing the upper water neck. We do have a Radan Industries upper water neck for this engine. There are a couple of O-rings we got to put on for the factory coolant bypass tube. They are going to be brand new O-rings, so we're going to pop those on there. And then we're just going to put a bit of silicone lubricant compound, just so it's not damaged when you go to install them. Okay, next up here, we're going to clean up the oil pan here. Our client's already done a really good job cleaning it. So it's just been sitting for a little bit. We're going to go ahead and just rinse it off, make sure there's no dust or debris that may have fallen into it. And then we will rub it off with the rubbing alcohol and apply our first layer of silicone here for the bottom of the pan. And then we'll move on to installing the lower half. Okay, first thing we're going to do before we put our silicone on our oil pan here is the oil pan O-ring. This is an extremely critical piece, obviously. This is just placed inside the block like that. It does have a bit of a spring fit, so if you do get an O-ring like this from Toyota or from us, it is on our website, you will, it'll seem like it's a little bit too big for the hole, but it actually fits in the hole nicely, springs outward so it doesn't fall out. This just pretty much guarantees that while you're putting your oil pan on, you're not going to end up with a situation where it pops out, and then that could lead to more problems. So we're going to go ahead now, cover the block up, we'll silicone our oil pan, and then we'll move on to installing it. So another critical area, just like on the oil pump right here, when you're installing or placing your silicone onto the pan, you're going to want to make sure that you're on the outside groove here. These are double grooves so that when you seal it, the silicone cannot squeeze into the O-ring area and then potentially get any silicone in here. You can verify this on this, you can't do it on the oil pump. You look in here, once you put your oil pickup on, you'll be able to tell if you squeeze any silicone in there. So just be extra careful. You're going to want to put silicone here, that it squeezes into here but not from anywhere but on the outer edge of it. And then anywhere else on the pan, obviously we're just going to be putting our silicone on the inside of the bolt holes. That way we seal the oil in away from the bolt holes. Okay, now that we got our oil pan installed to the block, we're going to go ahead and torque down the bolts. The 14mm head ones are 29 foot-pounds. We're going to do those 4 or 6 first, and then we'll move on to the 12mm bolt heads. Next up, we're going to torque down the 12mm bolt heads to 15 foot-pounds. Okay, so we're about to install the oil pickup on this engine. I did find a little bit of debris inside of this oil pickup. These ones are notoriously bad for being able to get the debris out of them. So instead of chancing any sort of oil or silicone, or any sort of silicone getting into the oil, or any sort of debris that might be trapped in there, we're just going to replace the pickup. It's a relatively inexpensive item to overlook if you don't have to. So we're just going to set this one aside and we're going to install the new one. First thing we're going to do here is install the oil baffle plate, and then we'll move on to installing this. Okay, now that we have our baffle plate and pickup tube installed, we're going to torque it down to 6 foot-pounds. Torque the lower oil pan down now. It's going to be a 6 to 7 foot-pound range. So we're going to install the oil drain flange that came on this oil pan. It looks like it took a bit of an impact on the AN flange surface here. So we're going to go ahead, we're just going to replace it for our client and put one of our new ones on here. This is one of our Boost factory drain flanges. We're going to install this new O-ring, and this is also available on our website if you do need one yourself. Okay, so one more thing we're going to do here before we button everything else up. We're just going to run a leak down test. We've already done it here, but we figured we'll film it this time. We did it on the 26th before. This is basically just a guarantee that anything you've done already has properly been installed and seals. So ring seal and valve seat seal, valve to seat seal. Anywhere on an unbroken or an engine that hasn't been broken in yet, you can see anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20 PSI of leak down before it's broken in. Anything better than that obviously is very, very good. But we're going to go ahead now. We're just going to verify that we have cylinder sealing, and then we'll carry on to the rest of the assembly.